So Galvantula's best use, and the main thing it's ever used for, is its access to the move Sticky Web. But since that's what everybody expects out of it, I'm going to instead try to make it a full offensive threat to catch people off guard. Its stats are nothing too crazy. While its 97 special attack isn't anything to write home about, its 108 speed is pretty solid and allows it to be faster than quite a bit. What gives it some extra help though is its Compound Eyes ability. This gives a 30% boost to its move's accuracy, which happens to pair extremely nicely with its Stab Thunder. At 70% accurate out the gate, with the Compound Eyes boost, we bump up Thunder to being a 91% chance to hit, which is extremely nice. We toss on a Choice Specs to boost damage by a big 50%, and all of a sudden its 97 special attack seems way more scary when you're sending off base 110 power Thunders that are nearly guaranteed to hit each turn. While you could honestly just run it in rain, I will say it's mostly nice to not have to rely on any weather at all. We toss on Terra Electric to boost up damage even further, and with this, spamming Thunders can become overwhelming. We've got hard-hitting, fast Volt Switches for positioning, extra stab and Bug Buzz, along with coverage and Energy Ball if needed. With everyone seeing Galvantula and instinctively thinking they're going to be dealing with webs, I think it'll be fun to bop some people with the surprise big boy damage instead. While Galvantula spends most of its time setting up others for success, today we're going to see if we can catch some people off guard and destroy them just straight up with the spider itself. Surely if this thing didn't have access to Sticky Web, it would be at the very bottom of usage stats, but you know, hey, Compound Eyes Thunders with the Choice Specs are definitely going to do some big old damage. So if this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. And without any further nonsense, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so just from team preview, I saw that, they don't have any ground types, so you can bet your sweet ass I'm going straight with the Galvantula and either Thunder or just get a little Volt Switch going. Now, as they end up leading off with the Skarmory, this thing thinks it might be safe for turn 1, right? Everybody expects the lead Galvantula to click a Sticky Web, but nope. Immediately bop him with a Volt Switch, and with the specs, that's going to be able to knock it down to Sturdy, which is amazing. So that immediately kind of neutralizes a threat that Skarmory, honestly, my team doesn't deal with Skarmory that great other than Galvantula. So I get a little pivot there. I'm fully expecting this thing to likely just click Stealth Rock. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go Meowstic. I've been messing around with this Meowstic for a while, but I come in for free before the Stealth Rock gets set up. And knowing that this thing obviously is just hanging on by a thread, I can knock it out with one of my 2 sound-based moves and get a Throat Spray going. So I decided to click the Alluring Voice just in case they want to switch into something like the, one of their 2 dark types. They've got both an Umbreon, they have a Tyranitar in the back. I don't know exactly what the Tyranitar is working with, but as I get that Throat Spray, Meowstic sitting at +1, that base 83 attack is, his special attack is looking decent, but honestly, I probably should have tried to go for a nasty plot there to make myself just that much more scary, because now they get a Revenge Switch into the Tyranitar. Freaking Godzilla over here, it gets up that Sandstream. So first of all, now with the special defensive boost that comes to rock types with that, and Alluring Voice, yeah, that doesn't do as much as I had hoped for. I was thinking maybe it would still be a 2-hit KO, but now also, unfortunately, they are a Dragon Dance set. So now I found myself in some some little Meowstic trouble. And yeah, sometimes the Dragon Dance Tyranitar was a pretty big stopper to this, because now I'm basically forced to stay in. While they can finish me off with a crunch, they're sitting at +1 attack and speed. Tyranitar looking a little bit scary, but that's exactly why I've got the big old lump of chewed bubblegum on the squad. I have the unaware Clefable, who obviously doesn't know about the Dragon Dance just because we're completely just unaware of the damn situation out here. You got to respect the willingness to just vibe on your own accord here. Clefable is able to take an attack because of the unaware. I can then go for the Thunder Wave, which is nice. That's going to be able to slow Buddy down, but also should allow me to maybe try to capitalize on the fact that now I can maybe set something up in the front of it, but the Stone Edge still does a lot of damage. Luckily, we're able to take it because, Clefable about thick as a ball of oatmeal, but also now, sadly, at +1, I'm thinking they still probably outspeed here. I would like to get some Stealth Rock. Sadly, they do not get paralyzed. Another Stone Edge, as they do connect on that, is going to take care of Clefable. So while I do get the paralyze on the thing, at least I'm not super afraid of freaking Godzilla over here, and I can try to get a little something going. Now, my thought process here is that if I can get Alchemy to get a little bit lucky, I could be in a situation where I can set up in front of this thing, and then all of a sudden, the little dessert is a massive threat. If you haven't seen the Alchemy video, I recommend checking it out. So first of all, they do get off an Earthquake. They are able to break through the para. They are also faster. While I do get off an Acid Armor to go ahead and double my defenses here, it's still going to require a little bit of elbow grease to get this thing going. But it's honestly looking like if I can break through this Tyranitar, Alchemy might just be in a pretty damn good spot. So they do break through. They get off another Earthquake. While I do have that boost, I'm able to go ahead and plant a nice little smooch on him. While that does do decent damage, it doesn't quite knock it out. And while at least I do get in range to live another Earthquake, the Tyranitar now decides, hey, why not? What better time for lunch than just paralyzed in the middle of the plaza here in the middle of a battle? So it does get a Citrus Berry, and that's actually unfortunate because now I'm looking at it thinking, as they do get the Paraturn there, that's pretty lucky. But and also, it's not in range for the Draining Kiss to finish it off, sadly. You know, without any Calm Minds, Alchemy's I'm working my damn best over here. Literally, I'm a doll of a whipped cream. What do you expect from me? But the good thing is, look, these Draining Kisses have gotten me into a relatively healthy spot. And also, as I'm like, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice here. If I can get a para, that might be really good to just snag a free Calm Mind here. Now, they do not get para. They also connect on a Stone Edge. And as my sugar-filled ass is slowly getting scarier and scarier, the bad news is if they are able to both break through and get another Stone Edge off, I probably die. And check it out. Yep, that's exactly what happens. So the vibes are, I will say, at this point, not great. I've kind of wasted both of my setup guys at this point, and as I'm down to 3 Mons left, I gotta try to get a little something going. But here's the good news. There's light at the end of the tunnel in that honestly, Galvantula looks like it could be a great win condition in that they really do not have a whole lot of answers that want to take attacks from it. Now, first of all, knowing that Galvantula is going to kind of be my play, I also know that being Choice Specs, I'm not going to be able to lock myself in and just kind of spam. I'm going to need to get rid of these Stealth Rocks because as I go for the Rapid Spin, that's going to obviously remove the rocks. It's going to now open the door for Galvantula to come in, get some big damage with something like a Bug Buzz, and then swap out, come back in while not taking Stealth Rock damage, and then have Threatening Stab against things like the Suicune. So also, we do get a nice little Paraturn. I'm able to finish off the Tyranitar with the Snowflake, and that feels pretty good. So, as they now bring in Umbreon, the problem with that is my Snowflake is not doing a damn thing here. So, I'm forced to swap out, and I don't know exactly what this Umbreon wants to work with, but it's always going to be some type of specially defensive, just wish monster. So, as I swap Hard Switch into the Galvantula, it does feel like one of the things that I can bring this thing safely in. And as they Thunder Wave, that works out perfectly. They're probably pissed off about being paralyzed, but I'm like, nope, electric type, baby. I can then fire off a big old Bug Buzz, which is first of all going to do over half. And as I get the special defensive drop, that works out pretty nicely because Umbreon reveals it's going to be working with Snarl, and that drops my special attack, but we're looking even. And now this thing absolutely cannot take another Bug Buzz. So they're forced to switch. Now, the one thing is, them seeing that damage from the Bug Buzz there probably does give away the fact that I am going to be Choice Specs. So they feel like they're relatively safe to go into the Suicune here. And that actually still does huge damage to the thing. And I get the special defense drop again. So Galvantula is absolutely on its A game. Now the problem again becomes, since I'm Specs, I'm forced to swap out. And that's the huge reason why I wanted to get rid of those Stealth Rocks. Because as I can go into the Caragonal here, I'm worried about potential Calm Mind setup from the Suicune. Honestly, every time I see a Suicune, it's like flashbacks from the Gen 4 days. This thing is crazy. So they do go for the Ice Beam, which I come in on nicely. Just nothing like taking a little frozen forehead water right to the face. If you're a Snowflake, I guess it probably doesn't really matter. Doesn't do anything because I'm bulky on the special side as well. And then knowing while I do threaten it potentially with the Freeze Dry, I'm thinking this might force a switch back into something like the Umbreon. Either way, though, if they do stay in, guess who comes in pretty easily as our buddy Galvantula? I can switch this thing in. It turns out they clicked the Mirror Coat, probably just expecting the Freeze Dry. But nope, now they are met with the Galvantula. And we are once again in the kind of upper hand position here where I'm faster than everything, and Specs Galvantula hits so incredibly hard. While they have the option to switch into something like the Meganium, that is a pretty risky maneuver because then I could just have Bug Buzzed. But as I just go right for that Thunder, that Suicune may as well have just taken a bath with a toaster. That's going to absolutely delete the thing, and that is really good. So, again, when I said that Galvantula has a good late game matchup here, I mean it, because I literally have the option to hit everything super effectively. As they're able to go into the Frigiraffe here, this is a little bit of a problem in that I'm like, I need to probably come in and try to Bug Buzz it, and I don't want a hard switch. So I realized then, I'm like, you know what? Why shouldn't I just go for, I can just literally go for the Terra Electric, boost up my Thunders even further, and depending on how this thing is built, even if it's max HP, I think I still grab a satisfying kill here. Sometimes you gotta pull the old light bulb out on the dome and get stuff going. Now, I am worried about this not knocking it out and then getting up a Trick Room, but it is just gonna straight up knock the thing out, and that is incredibly satisfying. That's the damage you get with Specs and Terra, and just hard-hitting moves like Thunder. It just is so threatening. So, with that out of the way, it's still feeling like I need to conserve this Galvantula because it's kind of my only way out of this. Now, as they do have the Meganium, the only mon left that can resist the Thunder, so I am forced to switch. But luckily, I mean, Cragonal still comes in pretty nicely, and extra nicely, because as they click an Earthquake, we are levitating. So that's sometimes I forget that this thing even has the levitate ability, but works with pretty good synergy there, because now I can threaten the thing out with a Freeze Dry, and they are down to 2 Mons left. First of all, it's going to be Umbreon, who, whenever there's an Umbreon still alive, the game is far from over. This thing is just an asshole like that. So I go for the Freeze Dry, doesn't do much, and then I'm like, you know, the great part about Umbreon is that it just does not threaten me offensively. So I can go back into the Galvantula here. Even if they snarl, I'm still in a spot where Bug Buzz is able to finish the thing off, and then knowing their final mon is going to be the Meganium, we can just Bug Buzz that. So it turns out they are going to go for the Moonlight, because this thing just does not go down without a fight. And we saw the damage from Bug Buzz earlier. We know it's not quite going to kill, but they're at a point where they're kind of back against the wall here. I'm almost able to grab the knockout. Sadly, it's not quite enough, but as they go for the Snarl, the special attack drop does not really matter when you choice specs out here. I'm basically back down to normal, and then I can go for one more Bug Buzz, which is going to finish off the Umbreon. So now the situation becomes their final mon is going to be the Meganium. And while obviously I'm just sitting here locked into Bug Buzz, the problem is I'm special attack dropped, but also they still have the option to go for a defensive Terra. So to play things extra safe, I'm going to end up swapping here. I'm worried about them being able to Terra out of that and then just being kind of stuck in there. So I decided to switch into Cragonal. It turns out they're going to click the Swords Dance, which, seeing Earthquake from the thing does reveal that it's obviously physical, and Swords Dance Meganium, it turns out my opponent's got some taste. So they get the +2 attack, a little bit scary, honestly a little bit frightened of the Meganium. Not that afraid, but as now they're able to go for the Terra, it turns out it's going to be Terra Psychic, which is 10 out of 10, not what I expected. It's at least going to allow it now to be able to live a Freeze Dry, but also it is able to outspeed. And the reason why they got the Terra Psychic, I guess, is because now it's able to increase damage from the Zen Headbutt. And I just got my Cragonal knocked out by the most random shit possible. So at this point, I've got 2 Mons left. But the great news about a Terra Psychic is that, hey, guess what? Galvantula Bug Buzz still is going to do the damn job. And I'm also faster since this thing doesn't have any crazy Trailblaze boosts. I can go for the Specs Bug Buzz and boom, that just deletes the Meganium. So that's got to be the most clutch match matchup in general for the Galvantula to come in and just completely destroy stuff. So that was a very interesting game. Sometimes you got to thank God that you've got the Electric Spider, because that was pretty damn clutch out of the guy. So look, while the first game is over, that's now going to bring us into game number 2, because we still got some action going, and I got a little bit of a team switch up. What remains the same though is the Specs Galvantula, because it's way more fun than I thought this thing was going to be when I initially threw it on the squad. So if you've stuck around this far into the video, first of all, thank you very much for hanging out. I do appreciate you. Second of all, go ahead and hit that like button if you are still here. And with that, let's just jump into the next match. All right, so my opponent this time is going to lead off with the Salamence. Big Tubby Dragon comes in, and as I've got the Galvantula, most of the time you see Galvantula on a team preview, people expect that to be the lead. While they also expect the Sticky Web, I can instead just go for that big Specs Volt Switch, and even though that thing thick as hell, it's still going to do about half, which is pretty nice. Now, I am kind of frightened of Salamence starting to set up with Dragon Dances. Obviously expecting the Sticky Web there, I'm thinking they probably do Dragon Dance. One thing I can do is go into the Beyblade. I bring in the Hitmontop here, who gets that Intimidate off, and as they do Dragon Dance, that at least negates that attack boost. But the problem now becomes, if this thing has the flying coverage, I'm still probably in danger. I do have the triple axle, but they are in fact going to bust out the dual wing beat, and that is going to go ahead and dual wing beat my ass right to the Shadow Realm. So down goes the Hitmontop. I get the Intimidate there, but unfortunately for me, since we saw this thing wasn't Intimidate, that means it is Moxie. So now it's at +1 attack, +1 speed. It's also Life Orb, and this is a very frightening Salamence here. Now, here's the thing. I decided to go into Doug Trio here because I was excited about a Sucker Punch knockout. I go for the Sucker Punch, and it does not nearly even come. That's a miscalculation on my end. I really thought that was going to be able to knock it out. Sadly, it does not. One dual wing beat brings me down to Focus Sash, and then the next one just finishes me off. And I should have waited on that. I got excited for Doug Trio to do something, and instead it let me down. So I was thinking also maybe if it didn't kill, it would also Salamence would be in range to just knock itself out with the Life Orb. But no, now it gets another Moxie boost, and it doesn't even kill itself with the Life Orb. So I have messed that one up, but you know, it is what it is. I now decided to go into the Hungry Hippo, because I'm like, all right, I should have gone into this thing initially. I am fully defensive, and as they go for the dual wing beat, I am able to take it relatively nicely even after that Moxie boost. So that feels pretty good, but also since I know that they knock themselves out to the Life Orb, I don't have to go for an attack here. I can go ahead and enjoy the old... I can enjoy a moment of peace here just by my lonesome and set up a little bit of Stealth Rock and help myself out later. So, the bad thing is I am now a sitting duck for whatever they want to bring in. And it turns out Urshifu is a great answer for them. Now, if there was one Pokemon that they could delete from existence that I just would never care about ever, it would probably be this thing, because God, is this thing just such a pain in the ass. But I am at a point where I can't really switch into anything here. I'm kind of forced to leave Hippowdon in as they go for a Surging Strikes. It is going to be able to take care of me, but, you know, at least we neutralized the lead Salamence threat and also got up a little bit of Stealth Rock. But now the great part becomes looking at the matchup once again. Galvantula slash maybe the Houndstone are going to have to be able to carry this for us. And they got some very scary stuff left. So, first of all, Galvantula comes in as a nice switch in here. They don't have any ground type, and also since I outspeed the Urshifu, barring them going for a defensive Terra, a Thunder just knocks it out. Plus, they don't have much that really wants to switch into a Thunder other than the Arboliva. That's kind of the main problem here, is that Specs Galvantula, they can switch into Arboliva on a Thunder, but it's also, then I can't Bug Buzz. So they end up going into the Heatran here, which is a good play. This thing's generally could be Assault Vest. As I go for the Thunder here, we connect, and that's gonna do some pretty nice damage there, not gonna lie. We also get the Para, which feels pretty good, but the main thing is them seeing that damage. They probably now realize that I'm Choice Specs, but I'm in a spot here where after Leftover Recovery, I'm not exactly confident in going for just another Raw Dog Thunder without a Terra. I decide, you know what, now feels like as good of a time as any to just go ahead and bust out the Terra. Galvantula is feeling like the win condition at this point. I'm gonna go Terra Electric to guarantee that this Thunder will be able to knock it out. And also, if I do get that really rare chance for the miss, at least then I can potentially live an attack from this thing. So luckily we do connect, however, and this is going to be able to go ahead and zap this thing into the next dimension. So that's able to take care of the Heatran, which is a pretty big threat out of the way. Now, again, the game of cat and mouse comes with, well, the Choice Specs is honestly really nice for this thing's damage. It does hinder us in being able to, like, I really would love to Bug Buzz on the Arboliva, but they know that I'm Choice Specs here, so they can freely bring in the Olive Tree. They know that they are not in danger to any Bug Buzz action, so I am now forced to switch. But also, knowing that this thing oftentimes is going to be carrying coverage in the Earth Power, I can pretty freely switch into the Earthworm, who would love a little treat. You know, go ahead and feed me some Earth real quick. We love eating it. They do go for the Earth Power, which is nice. And honestly, Earthworm is a great answer to try to keep alive for the fact that it really just is my best answer to this damn tree here. So I decided to just go for the Body Press. I can get some chip if they want to stay in. They likely are not going to want to stay in. But again, I still would love to just weaken things down, because then that just makes Galvantula's life way easier in the long run. So Weezing comes in. Weezing is, again, a little bit of a problem. It becomes one of these things where Galvantula can Thunder it pretty nicely, but then that just brings back in the Arboliva. So we've gotten ourselves into a pretty interesting little war here. Now, Weezing obviously defensively takes the Body Press pretty nicely, and I'm kind of worried about this thing just going straight for something like a Flamethrower. But then I'm like, you know what, might as well just bring in Spooky Doo, the crazy-ass Scooby-Doo fella who enjoys some Sandstorm, but also it's not going to be great. I basically, while I'm a physical attacker, not generally what you want to do against a Weezing, I also come in on a Will-O-Wisp, which absolutely busts my little doggy balls, because now, while I wasn't going to be able to do too much on the physical side anyway, now that obviously having my attack, it's going to make things a little bit worse. Honestly, I was really hoping to come in on a Flamethrower there, because I do have coverage with a Psychic Fangs. I figured it'd be maybe a 2-hit KO if possible, but I'm going to go for the Psychic Fangs regardless. At this point, the plan is to get as much chip on the Weezing as I possibly can. It also is going to be Rocky Helmet, so nothing like taking a bite out of a pointy helmet. That hurts. And then I get Flamethrowered, and then I get hurt by Burn, and then we're just having a bad time. The Sandstorm does go away. Not really that big of a deal here. While I am Sand Rush, it's mostly fine. Being burnt, it kind of just makes me be like, well, I don't really need much here. Now, I decided to go for the Poltergeist, just in case they wanted to end up swapping here, but they stay in, and they just go for another Flamethrower as I miss the freaking Poltergeist, which isn't, again, really that big of a deal. Weezing is already at a point where a Thunder just knocks it out, so I'm like, that's kind of fine. And now as I'm looking at it here, there's still some value I could get out of this Houndstone, right? I have potential to get off a Destiny Bond later. So also knowing I don't really have much reason to stay in and get more chip with its Psychic Fangs here, I can pretty freely bring in the Galvantula, who doesn't really care about a Flamethrower now that I'm pure Electric type. And I'm now at a spot where a Volt Switch is going to be my best play, because first of all, if they stay in, a Volt Switch kills. If they swap into Arboliva, then boom, I can go right back into Earthworm. But as they stay in, The Volt Switch takes care of the wheezing, which is amazing. And that's just another one biting the dust to the electric spider. So knocking out with the Volt Switch at this point in the match is kind of fine, right? Because while I do have to go into whatever I want, they can decide a matchup, but it's getting kind of down to it to where Galvantula is gonna have to clutch it out for me. But since, you know, I figure why not? We kind of got a free life here with the Houndstone, because I can bring this thing in, I can live the burn, and then as they can go into whatever they want, they've got the Empoleon here, who, satisfyingly enough, is slower than me. And that's what's really good about just having this random Destiny Bond, is that they're probably going to attack here. If they don't, I guess that's mostly fine. I'm going to try for a Destiny Bond anyway, because literally why not? I'm not going to be able to do much to it anyway. So I fire off a little Destiny Bond action, and I'm like, go ahead and attack me, buddy. I know you want to. They do end up going for the Flash Cannon, which is incredibly satisfying. That's going to knock me out, but also that's going to bring them down with it. Now, while I had just the Galvantula who just destroys this thing with a Thunder, they do still have a defensive Terra, and that's the main thing I have to play around here. So Empoleon out of the way. And now the match is getting really interesting in that it's a 2v2 match here. I've got the Orthworm along with the Galvantula, and they've got the Urshifu along with the Arbalivas, or Arbaliva, whatever the hell that thing is. They freaking got it. So first of all, they decided to bring in the Urshifu, which is nice. I'm just going to click Volt Switch here just because it's my safest bet. Again, if they go into the Olive Tree, that's fine. Volt Switch is just enough to knock this thing out anyway, because we are faster. Specs with that Terra, crazy ass damage. That's going to be able to knock out the most annoying bear ever. And now we've got ourselves into the 2v1 we needed, because Orthworm has basically the best matchup possible against Arbaliva, unless it has what, Terra Blast Fire. That would be not ideal. But still, if it does go for a Terra Blast Fire, I believe then Galvantula just comes in and then we'll be able to knock it out with a Thunder. So it all comes down to kind of how the hell this Olive Tree wants to make this happen. Regardless, my Alaskan Bullworm out here is looking pretty damn nice. It takes a little more Stealth Rock chip, which is always great. I just decided to go for a Body Press. I do actually outspeed, which is fun. I almost knock it out with the Body Press, and that's going to go ahead and throw some seeds all over the place, which, you know, nothing like sometimes you need a little late game grass. And as they click an Earth Power, sometimes people forget about the Earth Eater ability. I already came in and ate one of those earlier, and now we're just at full health eating absolutely great. I can just finish it off with another Body Press that is going to take care of the Olive Tree, and that is going to be the end of the game. So while Galvantula doesn't get the, you know, satisfying final kill, Orthworm is eating good out here, and we're big, hairy, and pink, or mostly blue. So that's going to be the end of the game on that one. Thought that was still just an interesting match. Specs Galvantula, don't you be sleeping on this thing. It is a monster, and it will kill you. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate the support, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.